Hey everybody, I am Surbhi and you are watching Key Differences. In this video, I am going to talk about the differences between equity shares and preference shares. So friends, without further ado, let's get started. Capital is the lifeblood of any company. Therefore, once the company gets its certificate of commencement of business, it requires money for starting and running the business. The company can raise money by issuing shares or debentures. When the company arranges funds by issuing shares to the public, it is called share capital. In other words, we could say that the capital of the company is divided into units of small denomination, which are called as shares. Further, there are two kinds of shares, that is equity shares and preference shares. Now, what are equity shares? Equity shares are the ordinary shares of the company. These shares have voting rights and differential rights as to the payment of dividend and repayment of capital. That means equity shareholders receive dividends and capital repayment after settling the claim of creditors, debenture holders, and preference shareholders. Further, the dividend is not paid at a fixed rate to the equity shareholders, and so the rate of dividend varies every year. Also, the directors of the company declare the rate of dividend to be paid to the equity shareholders at annual general meeting. So what we have understood here is that equity shareholders are the real owners of the company. This is because they get residual profit after paying all expenses and liabilities of the company. They have the power to appoint or remove directors and auditors of the company. Also, they can participate in the company's management. Talking about the characteristics of equity shares. Equity shares are issued prior to the other forms of securities, but they are repaid at the last. There is no fixed rate of dividend on equity shares. The dividend is declared on equity shares on the recommendation of the company's board of directors in the annual general meeting of the company, but the dividend is paid only on the availability of profit. Equity shareholders are the actual owners of the company. Hence, they are entitled to receive notice of meetings, attend meetings, appoint proxies on their behalf, and cast votes. Equity shares are irredeemable. These shares enjoy voting rights and control over the management of the company. Coming to preference shares. Preference shares are the class of shares that entitle its holder to get priority over ordinary shares in the matters of dividend payment at a prescribed rate before the dividend is paid to equity shareholders, and repayment of capital to the preference shareholders before repayment of capital to equity shareholders when the company is winding up. Moving on to the characteristics of preference shares. It is a hybrid form of instrument that carries the features of equity shares and debentures. That is, it gives ownership right to the holders but do not grant voting rights. Next, these shares carry preferential rights as to the payment of dividend at a fixed rate. These shares make their holder entitled to receive dividends to a specific limit. In the event of winding up of the company, they have preferential right of repayment of capital over equity shareholders. If the articles of association do not specify, then preference shares are deemed to be cumulative preference shares. In a cumulative preference shares, the dividend accumulates if it is not paid in a particular financial year. Preference shares are redeemed during the lifetime of the company that issues them, meaning that no company can issue irredeemable preference shares. If the Articles of Association provides, preference shares can be converted into equity shares at the time of redemption. Coming to the difference between equity shares and preference shares. Equity shares are the shares that carry voting rights and the shareholders are the actual owners of the company. On the other hand, preference shares are the shares that carry preferential rights as to payment of dividends and repayment of capital at the time of winding up of the company. Rate of dividend. The rate of dividend to be paid to the equity shareholders varies from year to year. This means that the rate of dividend depends on the amount of profit earned by the company in a particular financial year. On the other hand, the rate of dividend is fixed for preference shareholders. Next, dividend. The company pays dividend to the equity shareholders after paying dividend to the preference shareholders. Hence, the preference shareholders are paid dividend before the equity shareholders. Next, repayment of capital. The repayment of capital to the equity shareholders is made after the repayment of preference share capital in the event of winding up of the company. As against, the repayment of capital to the preference shareholders is made before the repayment of capital to the equity shareholders in the event of winding up of the company. But the repayment of capital to the preference shareholders is made after settling the claims of creditors, debenture holders, and lenders. Next, right to vote. The equity shareholders have the right to vote at the AGM, as against preference shareholders do not have the right to vote. However, they may be provided voting rights in special circumstances. Next, redemption. Equity shares are irredeemable. However, as per the Companies Act 2013, the redemption of equity shares can be done under a scheme concerning the reduction of capital or buyback of shares. On the other hand, preference shares are redeemable during the lifetime of the company. So friends, this brings me to the end of this lesson. I hope the difference between equity shares and preference shares is clear to you now. However, if you want to study the topic further in detail, you can visit our official website, that is keydifferences.com. Here, you can find a detailed comparison of equity shares and preference shares along with their definitions and characteristics. Links are also provided in the description box below. So friends, I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please do give it a thumbs up and share it with other people. Also, if you are new to this channel and wanna get more such useful videos, consider subscribing the channel and also hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button so that you are notified every time whenever a new video is uploaded on this channel. And if you have any queries or feedback for me, feel free to leave in the comment section below. Until next time, this is me Surbhi signing off.